So hey guys, word around the block is that Kashtira is going to get their support somewhat soon. So in case that is true, I do have some ideas, more ideas I guess, to deal with Kashtira. If Kashtira really becomes like meta, like tier 0 or whatever, and everyone's playing, uh, well, Kashtira. We want a deck that can play well going first and going second against Cash. So, well, we can work on going first and then try to pivot to see what we can do for going second. Because you might have to play against essentially Macrocosmos. Just straight up, so. Yeah, that's a little rough. And then, like, their actual interruptions. A Rise Heart has this lovely effect to banish a card, like, unlike Fenrir. Fenrir's banish is weaker than a Rise Heart's. So a Rise Heart is, I think it was, like, soft once per turn for some reason. I don't know why. But, the effect of Fenrir's banish is to, target a face-up card your opponent controls. A Rise Heart just targets a card and banishes it face down, and the cost is to detach 3 materials, and it will constantly be gaining more material every chain. Every time something is banished, mandatory effect: attach one of those banished cards as a material. I don't know how that works if something would be banished face down, though. Like, let's say your opponent activates Desires. I'm pretty sure that can attach one of those things, so they must. So, do they just have to pick without knowing because they're face down? I guess that would be the case, huh? Well, that was just me getting a little sidetracked there, but... The first obvious answer is to Orchest. And that is simply because we have Gyusu. Gyusu has this lovely effect. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can send a Orchest or World Legacy card from your deck to the graveyard. Then if there are 2 or more other cards in this card's column, treat this card as a tuner this turn. If you controlled no other monsters, you can special summon 1 World Legacy token, Machine, Dark, level 1, attack 0, defense 0 to both players' field in defense position. So this will give your opponent a token. So just Orchest in general, if you just are able to summon Girsu and then the token, this will put your opponent at a major disadvantage. But of course, one of the small issues is that going second, you're in a unfavorable matchup. So this is kind of a coin flip kind of deck here. So if we win the coin flip, go first, we give them the token, and let's say they are able to summon a guy. It doesn't really help because they can't get rid of our token, not easily. And if they do get like rid of the token, we still have follow-up with our Dingirsu, the Orchest of the Evening Star, which helps us out a bit, allowing us to like remove one of their monsters if necessary. So, because of how this works, though, that there's also like a small issue. So with Orchest, like if you want to summon Dingirsu on your opponent's turn, you have to trigger a monster effect, so that kind of sucks. So, for example, if my opponent summoned Fenrir, we'll say, for example, and then I want to Dingirsu the Fenrir for whatever reason, don't worry about it too much. So, that'd be chain 1, I activate like Symbol Skeleton, and then new chain, I will activate Dingirsu, and my opponent will also activate Fenrir. So, in that case, we're suffering a little bit there. So the obvious best forms of removal against, like, well, the things you can do against Cash would be, like, assuming you're going first, the strongest thing you could do to them is probably Hand Loop, obviously. They can't summon any guys if they have no guys in hand. Well, sure, that would work. So, if you resolve like something crazy like Mekk-Knight Scars, you automatically win, pretty much. Well, it's pretty close to it, at least. There's like still cards they can draw because their main deck monsters are like fairly strong. But aside from thinking like that, let's just think about like on-field, the best way to remove their on-field monsters. So there is flip face down, there is attach, and then there is just raw negating them is pretty okay. But it's not good enough because, well, depending on situation, with Kashtira Shangri-Ira, let's see if we can find it. My brain. Okay, so even if you negate Shangri-Ira, you are still going to lose the zones that Shangri-Ira has locked out. And it says here, it cannot be used while this monster is face up on the field. So this is a weird kind of continuous effect. I don't know like how to explain the ruling on this one, but if we have like Shangri-Ira and it's locked out like 9 of my zones, and then I activate Imperm on this, I will still have those 9 zones locked. So yeah, that's just how the card works. Not a whole lot you can do about that, but whatever, I guess. But if we were just looking at just like, well, decks as a whole and not like dumb text like Grave of the Ancient Organism or whatever, right? Uh-oh. Where is it? Ah, Grave of the Super Ancient Organism. Like, technically, Grave of the Super Ancient Organism would destroy them, assuming you're not playing any super high level monsters. Like, technically, that would work, but yeah, you have to draw into this. You have to be going first. So let's see. With Girsu obviously can't really do that much going second. You wouldn't like dump a guy technically. Like, let's say we normal summon Girsu, we can then send Harp. They can banish Girsu, and then I don't think we have enough bodies to actually do like what we want, which is pretty painful. If we want to activate some spells, we can get like pretty cucked as well because of this card, Kashtira Birth. This has an effect to banish graveyard cards if your opponent activates a spell card or effect. Just banish 3 cards in the graveyard randomly face down, why not? This one is if they activate a trap, banish a card from their hand face down, you choose. So that effect, a little rough, but at the same time, if your opponent sets 5 passes, they have no cards in hand, you know? So preparation's pretty awkward, that effect, at least. The special summon effect is a bit better. So, let's see. So, obviously, Mekk-Knight is a little bit worse than what we're looking for. Like, this has a good matchup going first, assuming you can have Girsu isolated on the field to summon the token. That's not bad at all. And even if your opponent is playing, for example, a copy of Lingribo, you play Counter Trap. So, Lingribo can't respond to your Crescendo, so it's not like a big deal at all. This summons a Cybers, right? No, it summons a machine. Well, let's just pretend, for example, this was Cybers. Then it wouldn't work. For some reason, I'm thinking of Ibli. But, yeah. In general, Orchest, decent going first. Going second, not so much unless you have, like, some very specific tech options that might be able to beat them. Like, I don't know, Book of Eclipse. Maybe the play is to, like, Book of Eclipse and then, like, do a Zeus play. That is definitely within the cards, you know? That's something that Orchis can do, so that would work, I guess. but not quite as strong as what we might be looking for. So instead, we're going to look at this. So this isn't like a guaranteed play that you'll always have, but Lost Worlds is definitely a good option. So Lost Worlds has this lovely effect. It has two notable things it'll do to our opponent if they are playing, well, this is level 1, so if they play technically Link Rebo, they can link off the token, but it'd be really dumb to do so. But anyways, once per turn, if a dinosaur monster is normal or special summon, except during the damage step, you can special summon a 1 Drake token. Dinosaur Earth, level 1, attack 0, defense 0 to your opponent's field in defense position. While your opponent controls a token of any kind, they cannot target monsters on the field with card effects, except for tokens. Once per turn, if a normal monsters on the field will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can destroy that many dinosaur monsters in your hand and or deck instead. So, Lost World has this lovely effect where it prevents the activation of Fenrir. Fenrir can no longer activate because they can technically only target tokens, and while they control your token, I don't know how they summon Fenrir. Maybe they found a way, you know, maybe activate Birth, normal or special summon Fenrir, whatever. That, I guess. Sure, that would work. But they can only target the token, but they cannot target the token because they're only allowed to target cards your opponent controls, so technically not activatable. But yeah, this token also has some protection, so if you were to, for example, play Dark Hole would not work, and it's not that great into Dino because second Misk can protect from like Dark Hole and stuff like that. So, not exactly what you want to be going for here. But Dinosaur in general is pretty strong. And there is a good chance that Arise Heart might be limited, for example. It's not, like, impossible, right? If Arise Heart is limited, for example, like how Kikelos was limited on release, then that also brings to the table Lithosegum. So you can use True King Lithosegum, get rid of Arise Heart, Zeus, and whatever else you need. But like in terms of one-ofs, getting rid of just Zeus and I guess probably go like Zeus, Big Eye, Arise Heart. Just getting rid of those three can do a lot of damage to your opponent. But honestly, Big Eye, like if you have Lost World, is not a big deal because yeah, Big Eye targets. So, this is good and all, but there is still one small issue. The small issue is that, of course, like, inherently, the matchup is not that great for Dinosaur. But Dinosaur does have one huge advantage called, my engine is so small, I can just run whatever the fuck generics I want. And yeah, that's just kind of how Dinosaur goes. So, you can just summon whatever. Like, let's say I want to summon, I don't know. Well, not summon, but yeah, we could summon like Pancratops technically, if we wanted. And Pancratops doesn't care about macro too much. The macro does hurt us, but we can just unironically run Book of Eclipse. And Book of Eclipse is not that bad in Dino because Ultimate Conductor Tyranno's effect to send stuff to the graveyard and attack all monsters your opponent controls. So Book of Eclipse, not bad, just to run straight up. There is also, for example, just, you know, other generics that you can run, like some non-engine, like, I don't know. Let's just look at these. So that there is like Contact C, there is this the one? Retaliating C. Wait, what's this do? Yeah, that doesn't do it. Which one was it? Flying Sea? Right. If you summon Flying Sea, your opponent can no longer XYZ summon. If you summoned, like, Contact Sea, then your opponent can no longer summon things with extra deck, essentially, unless they use this card as material for whatever it is. Being a rank 7 deck, this can hurt them a good amount. But if we're looking for some more hurt, let's see. How can we hurt more? More pain. And let's see. Yeah, I mean, Dark Ruler no more. This can do, like, decent, unless you're, like, getting super zone locked before you play. I mean, apparently Cash can just do that with the support, potentially, so I don't want to invest in that too much, but Kaiju is not bad. Kaiju. Just in general, this doesn't take your normal summon or anything, so Kaijuing your opponent, that's very chill. Like, you don't always need your normal summon in Dino. There are hands where you can just play without the normal summon, but I personally would much prefer having, like, the reliability of being able to normal summon if I have to. Like, there are just some combos you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. There are a bunch of different hands that you can do combo with, so that's pretty nice. I don't think, like, Interrupted Kaiju Slumber would be that good, though. This could be ashed, so probably not Kaiju Slumber, though. If we wanted to do some other things, Kurikara is not bad either. Kurikara Divincarnate, being able to tribute over your opponent's monsters. Well, tributing your monsters in the same way Kaijus can, and then summoning them back. Yeah, that's not bad at all. This just summons back anything, right? Yeah, just summon back any monster in your opponent's graveyard, so you'd summon back, like, Fenrir, take the Fenrir, and then, like, banish their cards face down. Being banished face down isn't that great either for, like, the Cash player. Recovering stuff from banish face down is relatively hard, I believe, so this probably helps you out a good amount. Being able to also, like, beat over guys. So, for example, let's say I activate, I don't know, Fossil Dig, then my opponent has to mandatory activate Arise Heart. Then I'd be able to Kurikara over both Shangri-Ira and Arise Heart, and then attack over Fenrir if they have it, and then do my full combo. And I'm perfectly fine, I'm perfectly safe to do so. One of the cards that absolutely, I think, don't work is Super Poly, unfortunately. Super Poly just doesn't have any targets for Cash, unfortunately. They don't meet the requirements for either Mud Dragon or Garura, so, yeah. Not a whole lot you can do that. But, like, matchup-wise, I think Dino is probably the deck, I think, that has, like, one of the best matchups. I can't really think of that many other lists with that good of matchup. You could say, like, Ninja has a good matchup, but it has to beat the matchup with itself first. Did I just open Yugioh the Gravity Ninja? Damn. I hope Yagura Maru is enough. That's kind of how it feels, you know? I mean, I guess that's why you run 2 Yugioh. I don't know if the math is correct, but if you run one copy of a card, I believe it shows up in your hand, like, every 1 in 10 games or something. It's like 12% or something. If you run 2 copies, there's a 1% to open both cards in 40. I guess it's worth mentioning that I only tested for like 40 cards. But yeah. This has like a okay matchup, you know, just Ninja in general. But I think I would probably prefer to do Dino. Because you have this targeting protection, and the token actually does a lot in Lost World. So your opponent can no longer imperm you, they cannot evenly you, and they can no longer lightning storm you, and like a few other things. So Lost World does a good amount for you. And that's probably the best list I can think of off of the top of my head that can like just fare well against Cash, like both going first and second. And of course, just dinosaurs in general have fairly decent matchups into like most lists. The worst matchup for a dinosaur, I believe, is Zombie World, where your monsters are no longer dinosaurs, disabling a lot of your effects. And that's about it. I can't really think of any like other really bad matchups, because you would main deck like back row removal like pretty easily with Dino. Dino just has the space for it because their engine is somewhat efficient. Like most cards actually allow you to combo in some way, shape, or form. Doesn't matter if it's like not like the best combo, but like yeah, you know, something exists. Like in comparison to like what Ninja has, this is a lot better. So if, for example, with Ninja, I have like, I don't know, the only option I have is to make either Maizen or like I like Maizen or Saizo. Then I can be interrupted pretty easily. I can get like ashed on my guys, and then I have literally no points of interaction. So like even if I set up the first turn, I can get like done in by like a top deck to Ash Blossom next turn. With Dino, you actually make a negate on the spot, so you're doing a little better in that regard. So let's see. I would need to see a listing from you to kind of see where it goes, but let's see. Petite, I believe. Is that what we're looking for? No. Baby Sarah. So, even if you have a relatively scuffed hand, if you're going second and you have Lost World and Baby Sarah, you won't be able to find like lethal on the spot, obviously. But what you could do is you can like activate Lost World, normal summon Baby Sarah, attack the token, and then protect the token, and then you can pop a Baby Sarasaurus from your deck, summon Oviraptor, pop the baby, summon the baby, and then summon Scrap Raptor, and you have like a pretty decent combo from that point. And you can even pop the other baby. You can summon like a third baby for Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, I guess. Like, I think Petite Ranodon is fine there. Then you can summon like Hank off of that. And like, that's fine. And with all those guys, I think you end on like one of the evil swords, so like the either the XYZ, well, one of the two XYZ monsters, right? Warlord Savage and Apollosa. So you're doing pretty well in that regard. But alright, let's try to look a bit deeper. What other kinds of decks could do well? So when Arise Heart drops, you just gotta be aware that Arise Heart can just target any card and just banish it face down on the field. Pretty much once every single turn. So going first is not a big issue, it's mostly with how you want to be going second. So how do we want to go second? Let's see. Well, for going second cards, like, just negation, like, it doesn't do literally nothing, but just because of how, like, Shangri-Ira works, Generally, if your opponent well, Jangri Hero, right? Generally, with how it goes, if you get like, if you're playing, for example, a controlled deck, and your opponent somehow has information that you're playing a controlled deck, and they lock out like 3 of your like spell trap zones, yeah, you're not going to be able to do much because this still has protection. Even after like you negate it, you probably won't be able to remove it with, well, in a control deck. So generously, let's just say it just locks out 3 of your spell trap zones. You imperm this, and then you set like 2 cards pass. Can you win from that position? In my opinion, probably not. You're probably going to get done in pretty soon. Because Birth is a card, and Fenrir is also a card. Fenrir will search guys, and it should just continuously look worse and worse for you as time goes on. But one of the things about Kashtira is that they are mostly monster focused. Like, all of the interactions are primarily focused on monsters. They will have race off later, but that shouldn't be a big deal because that also gets triggered by mostly monsters, so you should be okay. Against race off, I believe race off's effect was that like it destroys a card if you activate the effect of Shangri-Ira. Maybe it's specifically the zone lock or just the effect. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't really played against the new cards like at all, as I am mostly a Master Duel player. So not 100% certain about that, but having like back row removal against them is like still like somewhat decent. The best kind of like removal that you generally do against your opponent is just like an evenly matched, but like evenly matched is like a bit of a double-edged sword here. Of course, like your opponent will have to banish all of their guys face down, like possibly like rates off, but this will also trigger Shangri-Ira, so you will lose a zone for this. I don't know if your opponent has like information on what you're playing or not, so a bit rough, honestly. They don't have any spell trap negates though, so just in general, like powerful spell traps are the play, but like not negate. Negates are generally going to be not enough in my opinion, so yeah, that's a little rough. If I were to just like consider what the best option would be, let's see. Just as a weird tech option, is there anything? Well, I mean, 5 Rainbow is like alright. It won't like win you the game, I don't think, necessarily in every situation, but in certain situations this could probably help you out a bit, because there's just a decent chance. I don't see like why your opponent wouldn't do this, but I'm pretty sure there's a decent chance your opponent would just flip the trap, the continuous trap. Like, small chance that happens, but if not, they just probably just don't have it or something. But yeah, if your opponent doesn't open like anything like an imperm, the only spell traps they should have would be something like a birth, and then this can just negate all of your opponent's monsters for you, so that they cannot activate their effects and they cannot attack. So that might do you some good, it might not. A bit situational. I wouldn't quite recommend it. The best usage you'll get out of Rainbow is somehow putting this in the graveyard and then setting a card. That's about it, man. So in terms of removal, I don't think Destruction is that great because you can still summon guys back. So for example, let's see. I think Banishing is like pretty damn bad too. Well, it depends exactly what you're playing, but like, let's say you banish Kashtira Arise Heart. Kashtira Preparations, summon back Arise Heart. That sure did a whole lot of nothing. Well, I guess it doesn't have as many materials now, except if they did activate the effect, I believe since it is soft once per turn, they can just banish on you again. Well, rough. And any kind of like graveyard reliant deck or deck that uses the graveyard for their plays suffers immensely. So I'm thinking like to either keep it minimal or just have like some really good going second cards on you, just so you can get the drop on your opponent, so you don't get like macroed and, well, yeah, so you don't get macroed for your life savings. I don't know if this would be good. It kind of depends on the list, I suppose, but Necroface? Banishing Necroface would be easier with macro up, but I don't know if there's any deck that's super good with this. Considering the zone lock exists, it's a little rough, but just banish decks in general can benefit off of being under like a macro, so like Thunder Dragon would be like doing better than usual, honestly. So that's great. Except your removal is just destruction. I mean, the destruction is not that bad, because you can remove all the spell traps here. And that's pretty swell, I guess. But I think it also sucks that your banished cards will get attached. So, that makes things a little bit awkward. So, if your banish card like has a trigger effect that actually does something, like aside from like summon itself, so it doesn't require itself to be continuously banished, that would be doing better. But like because of like Thunder Dragon Fusion, for example, let me think actually. Yeah, with Thunder Dragon Fusion, you actually need your Thunder monsters to actually be banished, so you might not be able to get into Titan as easily. So maybe this isn't quite the play. And also, you need like some way to send your Thunder Dragons to kind of the graveyard, you know, just so it's banished. So you have to be able to send them somehow, aside from using their effect. So that's a bit awkward, I suppose. XYZ decks in general will probably do like alright though, because typically they just don't super care about being banished. Like, they do like care because it does affect them, but generally with the way XYZs play, they're just okay. Like, if you banish them, not the end of the world, could be doing better, but you can still play the game, and Zeus will be an option, kind of. So you would have to somehow bait out like a Rise Heart, and then probably attack into Shankar is safe, and then you'd be able to go Zeus, wipe their board. That play is not bad at all. But I mean, just to simplify things, just Book of Eclipse is probably going to, like, this is going to win you like a lot of games. That or like a Kaiju, Lava Golem, Sewer Mode. All of those are probably the best generic options, because they're just useful in general. The only issue with playing Book of Eclipse is that maybe you don't want to use Book of Eclipse. Actually, like, if you were going first, having Book of Eclipse in your hand, not that great. This will also book your monsters. So in that sense, Book of Eclipse is kind of like meh. But because of all the damage it can deal to your opponent, it is still a pretty decent card, all things considered. Right now, though, Kashtira is not a big deal at all, however, so wouldn't super worry about it, but I recommend like bookmarking Book of Eclipse and Kurikara Div Incarnate. Just when the time comes, you know? Yeah, you might like seriously be considering crafting them, Unfortunately, I did not pull any copies of Kurikara Divincarnate during that selection pack. Unlucky for me, I guess. But yeah. Not many decks I can consider would have a super great matchup into Kashtira, so. How about Thunder Dragons? Reconsidered Thunder Dragons. Thunder Dragons probably not going to get you too super far. I mean, first things first, you probably want to deal with the zone lock, because getting zone locked just hurts you in so many different ways, and it's just not a good thing in general, so dealing with that first is probably good. If you can do more than deal with that, just deal with their whole board at the same time with like a Book of Eclipse, then that is also pretty good. Lava Golem is not bad either, I suppose. But like, decks that can run Lava Golem, there aren't that many decks that can run Lava Golem, unfortunately. I guess if you're playing like Mikanko, you could, but even then, whatever. There actually is tech they have specifically for tributing. So kaijus could be pretty good, but if they're playing Fog King, pretty rough. You attribute one monster or no monsters to normal summon, but not set this card. The attack of this card becomes the combined original attack of the attributed monsters. Neither player can tribute cards. So your opponent could just normal summon this, and this becomes pretty annoying. So outing Fog King would look simple because let's assume they use no monsters. So Fog King will be 0 attack and 0 defense. If you normal summon a guy to attack into Fog King, you can't activate the effect of whatever monster you normal summoned first off. So depending on what you play, that can be a pretty big death sentence already. But if they have a Rise Heart, they can just banish whatever you summoned. So can't tribute. Pretty painful. So just dropping I guess evenly into kaiju or something like that is going to be not bad, because there's no way your opponent can just pass on Fog King, and if they do, then alright, just ignore it and you can play on, because it's just the Fog King. There aren't that many decks that actually need to be able to tribute monsters. So yeah, that'll be alright, pretty chillin'. There are probably a lot of cash hands that can probably end up doing that, you know, just summoning Fog King, so that is a little rough to deal with, and removal like Raigeki just isn't enough, unironically, because Shangri-Ira has protection. I'm not certain if a Rise Heart has protection. I will check it right now. A Rise Heart. Alright, let's see. A Rise Heart has once per turn, you can XYZ summon this by using a Kashtira monster you control if an effect of Kashtira Shangri-Ira was successfully activated this turn. And then the Macrocosmos effect, once per chain, each time a card or cards is banished. Attach a banished card to this card as material. Once per turn, quick effect, you can detach 3 materials from this card, then target 1 card on the field, banish it face down. Okay. Yeah, so that is soft once per turn, so super rough to deal with. So if you did Raigeki, it will help a little bit, but then Shangri-Ira will still be on the field, and you'll still be getting zone locked. And if your opponent has preparations, there is a chance that they can just summon a guy. So not completely down for the count. And let's see, what has the protection work on this exactly? If this card on the field will be destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can detach a material from this card instead. Yeah. So next turn they can bring back a Rise Heart. So hopefully you win on that turn. and you're just doing better, but pretty rough. Giving your opponent cards in general, though, that can do quite a bit of damage. Ibli, for example, this can do a bit of damage if your opponent is not playing Lingribo. If your opponent can expect like an Ibli, anyways, just drop Ibli on them. They're doing significantly worse. Except they can technically Fog King over this as well, for example, if Fog King is being played. So that just leaves you with like Book of Eclipse, honestly, so you don't have a lot of places you can go with this, but there's also like Nibiru, except Nibiru tributes. So, didn't realize this till now, but Fog King plays around Nibiru. If you can't tribute, but yeah, Nibiru doesn't do anything. Rough. What can you do? I guess Raigeki is still like fine, but like Book of Eclipse would be better. Getting zone locked is like super rough. If you get like completely zone locked and they have Fog King, wait, how do you play around this? This, I guess, Lick effect to send a guy. Well, this might help a little bit. Yeah, just a smidge. Well, this only gets you so far. This actually has to send to graveyard, so not activatable under macro. So, Dark Ruler no more, sounding decent. Losing your zones sucks, I guess. Not much you can do about it, is there? Well, Thinking of more tech? Let's see. Even if you, like, summon Fenrir yourself, Fenrir is an if effect, so they can just instantly banish your Fenrir, and then, yeah, they'll have to mandatory attach your Fenrir to their Rise Heart, but then, yeah, you just don't have Fenrir anymore. Unless you have second Fenrir, that doesn't do anything. So, Fenrir, strictly going first card at this point, I think. Well, I mean, it's still useful because it can kind of force out like Rise Heart, but this doesn't really do a whole lot for you. I'm pretty sure Fenrir might be the smallest, right? Yeah, Fenrir is like the smallest aside from like Rise Heart, which Rise Heart should like never be on the field pretty much. So that's no bueno. Yeah. You're not going to be able to attack over anything with Fenrir. In fact, you'll probably, like, at best, crash Fenrir with Fenrir. Unless Fenrir is summoned in defense, then you can, I guess, activate Fenrir then. But I don't see any point in putting Fenrir in defense, because it's, like, a relatively big guy. So, yeah. That's not a great play here. Not much here. Well, actually then, what about this? I'm just curious about this, honestly. How does this card work? Inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each of the removed from play cards. If your opponent has 10 cards removed from play, that's 3k. So, if you want to kill with 2 dynamites, you just magically have 2 dynamites. Then you can activate both, and for each of the removed from play cards, that would be, what? Was this like 14, I think? No. 13. So, if they have 13 cards, you can lethal them with the dynamite, I guess. 13 cards banished. Will they have that many? Probably not, so yeah. Dynamite not looking that hot. Right now, I'm only seeing Book of Eclipse as a great option to have, but whatever. Let's see if we can find one more deck that might potentially have a good matchup. So I think the only one I have come up with so far is Dinosaur. And yeah, not much else. Orchist is good going first, but we're mostly looking for something that actually has a favorable enough, like, matchup that they might potentially be able to go second. Maybe if they run, like, enough... Well, maybe if their engine is small enough, it could work. So, like, potentially Punk can probably see some usage. You only need one card to do your Punk combo. But the thing about Punk is going first, you're just in general, Punk combo is not the best. Like, because the effect of Amazing Dragon is a trigger on the summon of this, you're not going to have good timing against Birth, but you do have access to Nashiwari Surprise at least, which can possibly get you where you need to go, I guess. Let's see, do these do anything? If your Punk monster battles an opponent's monster, you can destroy that opponent's monster. And if this is destroyed, Punks you control cannot be destroyed by battle. This one, if your opponent activates a card or effect that targets your Punk monster or monsters, you can target a card your opponent controls, destroy it. If this card in zone or spell in trap zone is destroyed, and activate this effect, this turn your opponent cannot target Punk monsters you control with card effects, and they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Yeah, those don't really do a whole lot. So, yeah. If you have, like, Nashiwara Surprise, this might be able to do a little bit of some for you. Mayhaps, like, well, probably you'd wait till the chain, unless you, like, if you think they might have 2 Birth, that's how it would go right now. But I guess they wouldn't ever have, like, go for double Birth, like, once the support drops. So, just to play around the potential of the normal summon of the Kashtira monster, probably just pop it on activation, I guess. That seems fine, just surprise on it, alright. That's fine. But then, let's say you do return with this. Return Fenrir. They just special summon Fenrir back. Huh. Ain't that awkward. So, just pure Punk is probably not enough. I mean, pure Punk is, like, decent still, but... that is not nearly enough to shut him down. So, what else do we have? Anything else? Just for the fact that they have that one generic banish a card face down is pretty rough. And this doesn't even consider, like, zone lock just yet, so that is a little rough. Although, if you have enough, like, anti-cash cards, you could probably give them a rough time with Book of Eclipse. So, if your opponent, for example, controls 2 monsters, and they have yet to activate their effect, I mean, doing the trigger is not fun on, like, Yugioh Punk Amazing Dragon, but combined with Book of Eclipse, this could be pretty devastating, actually. Situationally. Well, I don't see Punk being, like, that bad, like, if you run it with something else. But that reduces the odds of probably drawing the non-engine that you want to see against cash. So, I think, like, Punk is probably, like, worth considering. But, like, against the Rise Heart, they're no good against the Rise Heart. You have to send for cost for some of your Punk cards to activate them at all. So, that is unfortunately just pain and suffering. So, not doing super great. One of the things I find interesting is that, like, maybe Cyframe could do a little bit of damage. Maybe activating Gamma on them will do some damage. Kinda depends what they have, I suppose. So a bit rough on that regard, but I don't think Gamma is actually good enough into cash, honestly. Well, it'll be apparent why when the support drops, I think. I mean, Gamma on a Rise Heart effect is, like, not bad. It's probably decent, right? Because it's, like, a mandatory effect. So you could force a Rise Heart that way, and then just remove it, and then you just have 2 bodies, and then you could go, like, Draco Berserker. And this just, clears everything, right? You could even do it against Shangri-Ira, like, right now. Because Shangri-Ira is, like, something your opponent will definitely activate, and if they end on no guys, being able to Gamma and then, like, grab Draco Berserker is just not bad in general. I think there are other, like, options for rank 8s that are, like, somewhat worth considering. I think that Cyframe Omega is not, like, even slightly worth considering right now, so definitely not that. But if your opponent has, like, a Fenrir or something, you can just attack over this. If they have a Unicorn, you can attack over that also. That just removes 2 guys, and you still have the banish effect. So, yeah. It's pretty alright in my book. And I guess the potential to also go into, like, Excel Synchro is not entirely bad right now, so, So one of the rough things about, like, Kashtira, though, is that they do have back row and they have monsters as well. Their back row isn't as, like, war criminal-like as, like, tier limits. But what can we do against this, honestly? It's just pretty rough. Yeah. Alright, now, I guess, kinda just is a bit of suffering point, but maybe, like, a Ghost Cherries on Shangri-Ira would be not bad, because then your opponent won't likely be able to get into a Rise Heart, I think, necessarily. But if they do go into Rise Heart, they would have to commit 3 level 7 monsters to do so. So Ghost Cherries being able to also potentially banish Rise Heart, not bad. Yeah. But actually, what is the most disgusting thing you could do? If we had some way to special summon a guy, that would help. Yeah. So, let me think for a second. In terms of rank 4s, is there any, like, rank 4 that's really got a good Zeus line? Because this is realistically all you need. Is there any way I can just go into Zeus off of any of these guys? Like, let's say I just find a way to get rank 4 onto my field without my opponent being able to activate their Rise Heart on this. Well, on the previous stuff I used to summon this. Is there anyone here that can easily go into Zeus? I honestly don't think there is. Is there? Oh, no, wait. There's this. Crooked Cook. Crooked Cook coming in clutch. Well, this opens a line. So if we make Crooked Cook and then instantly go into Zeus, this is not bad. So, let's see. What was the card called again? Amana Iwato. This is at 1, but this would have been a decent play with this. Being, like, normal summon Amano Iwata, and then special summon A4, make Crooked Cook, attack, instantly Zeus the board, and that deals with everything. Just, in general, if we find, like, some really good way to go into Zeus, that would be the ideal. situation, in my opinion. But considering zone luck and all of that stuff, I think like this was like fairly reasonable to do. But I don't know. Pretty hard to do, honestly. Just like removing stuff off their board is like in general good, but the cards that do so, they either don't do it well enough, or there's like some drawback, like with Evenly. You'll lose more zones because they'll probably keep Shangri-Ira and you're just probably in a worse spot. Depending on like what they're locking you out of, right? Like, assuming you do need your spell traps and they're locking you out of your spell trap zones, what am I supposed to do about like assuming they only lock us out of like 3 spell trap zones? What are we supposed to do about this? In fact, worst case scenario, if they have like Fog King and like they locked all your spell trap zones, that already is pretty unplayable for like a lot of decks. Or like even the reverse, Fog King, and then like lock all monster zones. Yeah, that's not like super great. And of course Shangri-Ira has protection on it, so how do you remove Shangri-Ira? So I guess the best angle, if that kind of stuff like starts happening, is to just go run it back with hand traps. Well, Ghost Ogre is not bad, I guess. Ghost Ogre will be able to destroy the field spell or destroy a copy of Birth, so that'll help you out a little bit. The Biru won't really work in case of Fog King, so I think Fog King will like see a lot of play soon. So Nibiru, yeah, that's not going to do a whole lot. It might be like worse than Kurikara. Kurikara might still have some niche uses against someone like other decks. Kurikara in general is like good too. They'll be able to remove stuff. Same way like I guess Nib technically can, but yeah, still not great. There is like nothing that you can like just obliterate them with as far as I'm aware. The closest thing is Book of Eclipse, but of course if they lock out all of your spell and trap zones and they're Fog King, then what? If you start activating your monster effects, then because you only are left with monster zones, then you'll start getting locked out of your monster zones. And that just sounds pretty unplayable. Well, yeah. The only option I see is Dino right now because of how much non-engine they can run, like for hand traps and like going second, and the Lost World and the True King Lithosagum being able to do a hefty amount of damage. I think Dino might be the way to go. That, or if you guys can somehow find a way to like do a Zeus in like those relatively rough conditions, like, yeah, though that might be like a good amount of game planning. Aside from that, just win the coin flip, you know? Well, yeah, Labyrinth, win coin flip. I activate Dimensional Barrier. GG. That you know, I guess that works, but like going second, the reverse. Alright, I lock out every single one of your spell track zones. What will you do? The most you can do is summon Lady Lab, but there is no way for you to out anything. And all of your spell and traps, they have graveyard effects, they will be banished instead. So there's no chance that you can even do anything like Big Welcome with like Lady Lab on the field, returning, I guess, Shangri-Ira. That is not going to be possible. So yeah. I'm just like already suffering a bit just thinking about this, and the cards have yet to release. But people are predicting that it will be the next selection pack where they're releasing the Kashtira cards. I'll think on this a bit. I don't know. There might be some, like, decks I'm really missing. But, in general, I don't think I can imagine, like, that many, good techs you can do against Kashtira. Let's see, how many cash cards do I have? Let's see. 1, 2... one unicorn. I am only, missing 2 unicorn, right? No, I'm also missing 2 Rise Hearts. Well, if you can't beat them, join them, I guess. And I also have 1 Kapushenko, which is rough because, yeah. Unicorn. Because Unicorn exists, if you're running a 1-of in your extra deck, you can expect to see that 1-of gone. Even worse if it's a starter. It's definitely not going to be sticking around. If I see 1-of Jizao, I would banish 1-of Jizao too. So, yeah. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.